Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon
Good
to all.
afternoon, ma'am.
Hi, good afternoon.
Afternoon po.
Hi, Sir
Good
Lavin.
afternoon po.
I think we're
Good
ready to
afternoon.
start.
Afternoon, Chef.
Afternoon po.
Afternoon po.
Let me turn over the hosting to our Master of Ceremonies, Ma'am Kunsunhi. And because of some technical difficulties, we just ask some reminders for our students, our netiquette. If it is not our turn to speak, please keep our microphones on mute. If you wish to ask a question, you may do so by typing it in the chat box. And our Master of Ceremonies or our moderator for today will address the question to our guest speaker at the end of his talk. So after all the reminders, let me turn you over to your host for the evening, Dean Consunhi.
Good afternoon. Before we formally start the webinar, I would like to remind everyone of the Zoom etiquette for us to have a smooth program flow. To our Honorable City Mayor and University President, Honorable Antolin A. Oreta III, to our Vice President for Academic Affairs, Professor Melissa Grace Sison Oreta, Vice President for Admin and Finance, Dr. Michael Darwin Domingo, Vice President for Institutional Development and External Affairs, Engineer Sheila I. Villanueva, to our guest speaker, Director Ferdinand Lavin, Deputy Speaker, National Bureau of Investigation, to our respective deans and assistant deans, faculty members, barangay officials, CMU students joining us today both on Zoom and watching via CMU FB official page, a pleasant afternoon. To bless today's event, let us observe a moment of silence as we offer our invocation to our Eternal One. Thank you. Good afternoon once again. As part of the faculty and student development program of City of Malabon University through College of Criminology and College of Arts and Sciences, we gather this afternoon to equip ourselves about forensics. But why forensics? First, forensics offers students as an opportunity to develop research, critical thinking, organization, persuasion, and oral communication skills. It also enables students to clarify personal and social values through confrontation with the value judgment of others. Forensics provides students with an opportunity to develop, including teamwork and develop realistic attitudes toward competition through competing responsibly and effectively in an intellectual environment. Of course, this webinar wouldn't be possible without the guidance and effort of our action-oriented Vice President for Academic Affairs. Please welcome Professor Melissa Grace Sison Oreta.
A pleasant good afternoon to everyone. And welcome to the second Mind Talks of City of Malabon University. Gusto ko lang po batian ang ating University President, of course, ang gwapo kong asawa, Mayor Leland Oreta. All my fellow deans and my fellow VPs, and of course, all our barangay officials, and of course, our speaker for today. Maraming salamat. I know he's very busy, so I'm very flattered that he finally said yes. Matagal, para po sa pagyayabang ko lang po ng konti, Mr. Lavin, no? We are one of the few local universities in the Philippines that offer criminology. So matagal, sana po ma-impress ka sa students namin at pumayag ka na maging guest lecturer. So ito po talaga ang purpose ng itong webinar na to. But kidding aside, sa mga students na first time mag-attend tonight and also our barangay officials, meron po kami ganito every Thursday. So ibig sabihin, lahat po ng discipline or lahat ng degrees that we have at City of Malabon University, whether be it in business, in information technology, in criminology, teacher education, or arts and sciences, we actually invite a person who has been successful in that field, and then we ask them to share their inspirational stories. So this is a way of actually opening more doors for our students, so they're more exposed to what is out there, what are the careers out there for them, and somehow with the success stories of these individuals, they will actually feel inspired, or they can actually have a mentor or a benchmark. So kumbaga, gusto namin sila mangarap at lawakan ng kanilang pangarap. So by exposing them to so many speakers and many successful individuals, they know what they should aim for when they finish at the City of Malabon University. So sa ating mga kasama ngayong gabi, to those who are watching us in Facebook, welcome to our another edition of Mind Talks presented by the Criminology. At sa ating guest speaker, maraming salamat and welcome to CMU, and we hope to see you more often.
Thank you, BP Melissa. This time, let us welcome the highly efficient Honorable City Mayor and University President, Mayor Antolin A. Oreta III, to deliver his inspirational message.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Director Lavin for accepting our invitation. Sir, I hope you're in good health, and I'm sure you will inspire our student body. With us, joining us this afternoon are some of our barangay captains, and I think they want to pick up a few things from you as well. The Mind Talks, we have this to inspire our students. Hopefully, the student body will be inspired with all the talks that's been happening. And talagang mapapagmalaki natin because gusto natin nabubuksan yung mga mata ng ating mga estudyante sa lahat ng mga nangyayari. So without further ado, hindi ko na po hahabaan because we are just thankful that you're here, Director Lavin, and sa ating mga kapitan, sa ating faculty, sa ating student body. Welcome sa ating Mind Talks, and this is a program every Thursday. So abangan natin para sa ganon madami tayong matututunan. Maraming salamat.
Thank you for that, Mayor Len. And to introduce our guest speaker today, may I call on the Dean of the College of Criminology, Professor Francis Martesio.
Good afternoon, everyone. To be inspired more, our guest speaker for this afternoon webinar represented the National Bureau of Investigation in various capacities. He became a moderator in international symposium in Taipei, Taiwan, a senior officials in meeting on human trafficking and other transnational crimes in Brisbane, Australia. He also receives a different awards and distinctions as NBI Agent of the Year, Law Enforcer of the Year, and a regular lecturer at NBI Academy. Please welcome and give a virtual clap to Director Ferdinand Lavin. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you. Do you hear me?
Sir.
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
Thank you, Professor Marticio, for the kind introduction. Mayor Antolin Oreta, sir. How do I address you, Congresswoman? Chef Melissa?
Melissa na lang po. Nag-intriga pa eh.
Maraming nag-acquiesce, mukhang maraming nag-agree. Anyway, Professor Kunsunhi, Madam, thank you. Si future congressman, no? Oreta rightly said that education is is an equalizer. It's a good equalizer. So on the other side, on the other meaning of things, I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be recognized by a very prominent chef if it were not in the field of education, because they were, I think, co-workers with my wife, who is also a chef at the Center for Culinary Arts in Manila. We got to know each other, and at one time I got to meet your mayor, the president of this university. I think that was the time when he was still. I have to let out some secrets when he was still courting the program director of CCA, Center for Culinary Arts. Anyway, this is kind of like an informal talk. I have no outline. I have no PowerPoint presentation. I'd rather that we talk about the principles. I'd like to give you some examples of the crimes we have investigated as we discuss the capabilities of the NBI. How do we do things? Much
I think Director Levine is having connectivity issues. Let me just check. Okay, let me just check. Ano nga siya? Na-cut.
I'm still on?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Diba?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sorry. Sabi nga kanina, we are challenged by technology, no? So ito yung problema, but the problem now with technology had been with us for quite a long time. But the problem now with technology is we are being challenged by science how to use technology. With the pandemic, practically everyone is now resorting to electronic and digital means. So itong problema. In my field of work, we use technology a lot. We use digital means of communication, but kagaya rin nito, nagkakaroon din ng disruption, nagkakaroon din ng interferences. So, pardon for that. We will be using an informal talk, sort of magiyahan yung ating mga students, yung ating mga LGU officials, no. I'm very glad that the mayor has a very good vision for Malabon. We are in the security sector, in the public order sector. We are in the law enforcement, and the way to move forward for a community is when there is peace and order, there is public order, there is law and order in the community, so business can go ahead, the daily activities of the people can go ahead. Barring the challenge of the pandemic, ito yung problema natin. Pandemic with problem on law and order, pandemic with problem on the economy. Ang ating managers, we are not all trained for this. We have been trained at the NBI Academy and at the FBI Academy. We have been trained on how to handle investigations, but never a situation where you will conduct an investigation with your PPE. It's a challenge. Never for the chefs maybe to bake with PPEs on. I do not know if the entire time that my wife was teaching at the CCA, Center for Culinary Arts, I've not gathered that she taught using a PPE on. And this is the biggest challenge to all of us. Ganun din yung pamamalakad ng itong public governance. We are giving orders, we are trying to make the lives of the people easier for them to go on, but through video, through Zoom, through virtual meetings. This is a challenge for all of us. Anyway, why forensic investigation? I am the Deputy Director of the NBI for forensic investigation. I am also the spokesperson of the NBI. Sometimes you see me on
Hello, sir.
incident last February, that when we do that and you see me, medyo maganda rin yung sasabihin ng iba sa inyo. Yan, nakita ko yan. Yan, nagsalita sa amin yan. So that gives me a sense of pride. Why forensic investigation? In any investigation, you are limited to either a testimonial evidence, yung eyewitness account for the benefit of the students. Ito yung eyewitness account, ito yung testimonial evidence na tinatawag natin. Ito yung sworn statement o yung affidavit ng witnesses are coerced into giving statements, therefore somewhat twisting that particular piece of evidence. Or sometimes witnesses are like threatened.
Hello, sir. Hello, Director Lavin.
Am I back?
Yes, you're back, sir.
Sir.
I think I'm front. No? I'm front, I'm back. Okay. Pag nakaharap, front. Pag nakatalikod, back. So anyway, very very smart yan si Chef. Anyway, so I'm front. Not that I'm back, I'm front. Nakaharap ako. Anyway, so ito yung challenge palagi. That is why we have been very effective, because we always try to seal tightly our investigations. We do not only rely on the witnesses. We do not only rely on the statements of the persons who were at the scene of the crime, who have witnessed the commission of the crime, but we would always build up our cases with science. Forensic is when we apply science into law, and later on we present our findings, our scientific findings in court. Let's not complicate things. I hate to do definitions. I hate to do enumerations. I hate to do memorization. Let's simplify things. Forensic is when we apply science. This is applied science into law, make it legal, and we use this in court. Kasi kung science lang yan, kagaya ng ginagawa ng ibang nag-aaral, no? Halimbawa, this is only for educational purposes. You would like to do a study. You may not be called by the court. At best, you will be called by the court as a friend of the court, as a resource person. But as a witness, to present your findings, you will not be called by the court. The court will only entertain your findings if you are considered a forensic agent of the NBI and you are involved in the investigation of the crime, or you are a forensic scientist doing as a part of the investigation. Now, meron tayong tinatawag na testimonial evidence. Yan yung sinasabi ko na testimonial evidence may be corrupted. Pieces of evidence kasi may be corrupted, like when a witness is paid. When a professional witness is paid to do his or her own testimony of the events affecting the crime at twisting the facts. We're still okay?
Yes, Director, you're still good.
Yeah. Kung hindi naman, pieces of evidence may be compromised. Like when you step into a crime scene at na-contaminate yung crime scene, it's already a compromised evidence. That is why you will see, sa students, no, you will see na sometimes we have to cordon off the crime scene. When the police, the NBI arrive at the crime scene, it's cordoned off. To try to avoid people going into the crime scene, contaminating the scene of the crime. Pag umapak ka doon, your footprints are there. Pag may hinawa ka doon, your fingerprints are there. You may be investigated. So we do that. When you do that, we always try to seek the help of our partners. LGU, lalo na yung mga barangay. Nagko-coordinate kami sa barangay if they can provide us perimeter security. That we would call that perimeter security. While the agents are doing their job, there's an inner security, inner perimeter, and the outer perimeter, we would call that manned by either the police, if they extend help to us, or the LGU officials, the barangay. When we do raids on illegal drugs, it is mandated by law that there should be a representative from the barangay. And that is why it's very important that barangay officials should know their roles when it comes to cooperating with law enforcement officers. You are mandated by law to extend help. You do not extend help, you may be charged for obstruction in the administration of justice. If this is legit operation, make sure so that it's legit operation. Meron kayong mandado dito. Kung hindi naman itong legit operation, you have all the right to question the operation. Was the operation properly coordinated with the police? Unless the police is suspect in the operation, there may not be a coordination. But soon as you are able to identify that the law enforcers are legit by themselves, showing their identification cards, showing their documents, then you have the obligation to cooperate. Tama yung sabi mo, ma'am, na yung forensic analysts are trained on critical thinking. We would call that on our part analytical thinkers. It's not easy na we're trained in the area of how do you call that, deductive reasoning. No, we try to generalize and go into the details. These are the general principles involved, and then we go into the particulars of the case. Hindi pa pwedeng puro lang sabi-sabi, hindi pa pwedeng puro lang speculation. We cannot speculate, we cannot second guess. Everything is factual. Everything has to be scientific. We do a lot of research. You mentioned about researches. We do a lot of research. As a matter of fact, the NBI has embanked on a very aggressive stand. We have created a new forensic and scientific research center. It came out in the papers, I think yesterday or the other day, that in the US, there, I think 4 or 5 ambassadors have died mysteriously in their posts. If you have heard of nerve agents, that's how some KGB spies are killed. That's how some CIA operatives are killed. We do not have yet that capability. Yung tipong nakaupo ka lang sa park, this happened in London, may dadaan sa'yo na amoy mo yung pabango, all of a sudden you become too weak, all of a sudden you die. So these are the areas, this is the biggest challenge for law enforcement, both in the intelligence community and in the investigation community. How do we address this now? There is an ongoing conflict. It's already becoming a high intensity conflict in Gaza and Israel, and we are being challenged by this. I was assigned at one time for 2.5 years in Zamboanga as regional director of the Western Mindanao region of the NBI. I was there during the Mama Sapano. I was there during the bombings. We did some arrest on kidnappers in Sulu, in Basilan, in Tawi-Tawi. It's tough. Doing field work. How can you now go after Abu Sayyaf when I think there were only I only had 5 or 10 agents in the whole region. I would almost always seek the help of the military and the police counterparts. And when they are arrested, our office in Zamboanga would almost always be surrounded by Muslims without offense, trying to know the real reason why a person was arrested. We do a lot of teamwork, as mentioned by Professor Consunhi. Yes, we do a lot of teamwork. Investigation is never a one-man job. Forensic investigation is never a one-man job. The minimum composition of a team would involve around 8 to 12 forensic agents. You have doctors, chemists, dentists, photographers, ballisticians, you have videographers, we have behavioral science doctors, we have fingerprint experts, the ones who would lift the fingerprint at the scene of the crime. We have agents. So we have a minimum of around 12 agents. Whenever we deploy with agents and our forensic agents. When I say agents, I always refer to us, the investigation agents, and the forensic experts, the forensic agents. We would call them the forensic agents. This is very tough for us because the NBI, we do not have any air asset. Wala kaming aeroplano, wala kaming chopper. So in the time of the pandemic, the problem always is how to respond. We do not respond immediately. There is a possibility that the scene of the crime, kung saan nangyari yung krimen, may have already deteriorated. There is a rapid decay of kung halimbawa yung bombing sa Sulu, there were blood spilled on the pavement. If you cannot immediately conduct a crime scene investigation, the blood spilled on the pavement may be washed away by the elements. Ulan, yung dust. And then people, since this is a public place, people would go in and out kung hindi ka agad na-secure yung crime scene, walang cordon. It's very tough. Yung shell casings at as we would call them, yung empty shells ng fired from the firearms may already be lost. Kinukuha ito ng mga citizens. So you have all of these things. Immediately you have to deploy. But the problem is when you go there, you have to secure your ticket. You have to go on a swab test. You have to result for the swab test. Immediately, there's the difficulty of deployment. In the case of when we investigated the Calvillo incident, the shooting of the killing of Mayor Aquino, 30 minutes after the incident, the good Congressman Ed Sarmiento called me. Sabi niya, Director, can you help me? And he was practically crying because of the incident. He was si Congressman Ed Sarmiento is close to the late Mayor Aquino, and he said, Director, how can you help me? Pinatay si Mayor Aquino. Sabi ko, just text me requesting for assistance. I would not wait for a formal communication. Tonight, I will send a forensic team. Around midnight, I think this was around 6 p.m. Around midnight of that same day, I deployed a forensic team. But again, the challenge on us was that pandemic. Ang dami mong dadaan ng checkpoint, kailangan nilang swab. Remember, from Manila, you would be sending your team to, that's around 700, 800 kilometers from the center, from Manila. That's a lot. That was a lot of challenge for all of us. Ang hirap. We cannot also say na NBI kami, we will disregard the rules of the IATF. Hindi pa pwedeng mag-budge kami, NBI kami, we are investigating this. We have to follow the rules because this is a public health issue. Baka kami pa yung makahawa doon. Pag nagkaroon ng COVID doon, baka sabihin dala ito ng mga galing sa Maynila na NBI. So, we are doubly challenged by the pandemic. But again, we have to do our job. In the case of the PDEA-PNP shooting dito sa Commonwealth, if you have heard of this, I'm sure, ang hirap because nandun na yung SOCO, nauna sa amin yung SOCO. So, we are the second team to process the crime scene. There was already the SOCO, some pieces of evidence were already with SOCO, we have to request it. Good thing the President said, tigil lahat, NBI. NBI na lang mag-imbestiga. Tigil lahat. Even Congress, even Senate, they wanted to hear, they wanted to conduct a congressional inquiry on how it really happened. And that is why I think by next week, we are about ready to file our case. And hopefully, week after next, we will come out to the public, through the media, on how we investigated this case. If you see me there, if I'm there, I would be happy na yung ibang nanonood ngayon sasabihin, ay nagsalita yan, yung puti buhok. Yung puti buhok, nagsalita sa amin yan. So, yan yung ano natin. Kung matatandaan nyo pa yon, tingnan natin. From time to time, I will be explaining to you some of the methodologies ng investigation ng NBI in the field of forensic. Our capabilities, our divisions, bakit meron kaming division, anong impact nito sa investigation, anong relevance nito, anong materiality nito. Bakit kailangan ito naming itong division? Like when you investigate a case, practically may pupunta sa inyong witness. Ito yung sinasabi nating testimonial evidence. You are never sure whether the witness would be telling all. Di ba? Kung magsasabi ito ng lahat or would be telling the truth. Sometimes we have the polygraphy division to help us on that. May lie detector test kami. If we are doubtful as to the testimony of the witness, meron kaming, pwede namin sabihin, are you willing to go under the polygraph test, lie detector test? Lie detector consists of its polygraph, kasi multiple test ito, poly. Meron niyang contraption dito sa sweat glands, may contraption dito sa pulse, meron dito sa arm for the BP, meron dito sa heart. So kung buntis kayo, magkakaroon yan ng irregular heartbeat, you are excused. Kung meron kayong heart condition, excused. The reason for that is we want to know whether you are telling us the truth. Kasi some of the witnesses may be paid. Some of the witnesses may have their own motivations. Gusto lang bayaran sila, o kaya gusto lang nilang gumanti. So there is a possibility that the witnesses might twist the facts. And if facts are twisted and we present the witness in court, all that the defense will have to do is try to secure an iota of doubt. Pag naduda ang korte, dahil iba yung sinasabi ng witness dun sa nakalap naming ebidensya, yung forensic investigation, in most likelihood, ma-acquit yan or at best ma-dismiss yung kaso. See, kung sinabi ng witness na nakita ko, binaril ni Juan si Maria, ang susunod na tanong ng judge o ng defense, anong ginamit na baril? Revolver. Bakit mo nasabing revolver? Kasi may bola siya. The criminology students would know this. Kasi may bola siya. May bilog siya. Pero ang nakuha ng forensic investigation agents namin sa crime scene ay bala ng .45 caliber. Ang revolver kung gamitin mo, hindi mag-e-extract yan ng empty shell. Unless mag-reload ang shooter. Pero kung sinabi niyang revolver ang nakita ko, bilog, at nakakuha ng empty shells ng .45 caliber or 9mm, may problema. The witness may be paid, but the forensic science, the science at the scene of the crime in the field will never lie. Kung ano yung nakuha, yan yun. Kailangan magtugma yung testimonial evidence doon sa science, supporting the testimony. Hindi pa pwedeng magkahiwalay. Hindi pa pwedeng lalo na magkasalungat. It should not be contradictory. It should not be inconsistent. It should be consistent. It should not be contradictory. I'll just wipe my eyes. Can I break 30 seconds? Can I go on a bathroom break?
Yes, Director, sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Please be reminded, everyone, especially our students, you may ask your question through our chat box after, and we will entertain that after the Director Lavin's speech or presentation. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm front. I'm back.
Yes.
Okay. I do not find any satisfactory explanation. I urinate very often when I'm with my wife. That I do not see any explanation in science. Uh, I'm, I'm I'm very lucky to have a beautiful wife, and Chef or Professor Melissa knows that, and I'm always accompanied by my wife, and I love that. Not only at night time, uh, going into night time, I'm already accompanied. So times like this, ba? Okay. Chef Melissa knows me, medyo mabiro ako. Ngayon lang, medyo rapid itong ano natin. Anyway, when we go into investigation, we have the testimonial evidence, we have the what we call the physical evidence. The physical evidence consists of the objects used in the commission of the crime. Ito yung tinatawag natin na halimbawa patalim, shabu, di ba? Halimbawa relos na naiwan doon, or we have a new form of object evidence, which is the digital piece of evidence. If it's a cell phone, do we know how to go about cell phone? Mostly, yes, dito namin nahuhuli sa phone. Electronic or digital means of communication, dito namin nahuhuli. When we did the PDAF investigations, when I got Ben Horluy, remember the whistleblower, Ben Horluy. No, I think this was 5 or 6, no, around 7 or 8 years ago. Little did we know, Ben Horloy was sleeping in my room in the office at the NBI. Little did we know that Ben Horloy was slowly, how do you call this, watching the agents, how professionals were the NBI agents conducting their work, how professional the NBI agents were in doing the investigations. And later on, he would cooperate, and he asked me, "Sir, kaya nyo ba mag-imbestiga ng mga senador at congressmen?" I said, "Well, if they have violations in law at we have clear, convincing evidence, bakit hindi?" He was testing us. Kaya ba namin? O baka hindi kaya? And so I told him yes. And little did we know that when we sleep, we would leave the office. We would leave him in the office. Doon siya natutulog. He would delete some of the messages, some of the emails he had on his laptop. After about 2 weeks, told me, "Sir, I will tell you something." And so we started the ball rolling on the investigation. Took us about 6-7 days, taking his statement. And every time he would tell us something big about someone, I would always ask him. First, I told him, "You better get a lawyer because at the NBI, we don't do investigation kung walang abogado, kung wala kang kasamang abogado." Although NBI agents are either certified public accountants or lawyers, or both. Many of the NBI agents are lawyers. Mostly NBI agents are lawyers. We are patterned after the FBI. If the criminologists will ask, bakit ganon? Because in law, we request only 2 kinds of persons. The natural persons like us, yung kayang gumawa ng murder, kayang gumawa ng rape, and the juridical persons. Ito yung mga associations, corporations, organizations. Ito yung mas malaking kinasasangkutan because they would be involved in scams. They would be involved in financial fraud, financial crimes. Ito yung malalaki. So, when I told Ben Horloy, okay, he said, "Sige sir, I will tell you something about this." So we started investigating him. Unknown to the NBI, when we leave the offices, Ben Horloy would start deleting some of the messages dun sa kanyang laptop. When we were done with the statement taking, I said, in front of his lawyer, "Are you willing to share your laptop with us?" He said, "Of course. We will have this laptop examined." We had the laptop examined. We have what we call a forensic autopsy. It's very much like a human autopsy. You would know ano nangyari doon sa ano. We have a computer autopsy. It's like a forensic workstation. Kung anong ginagawa ng doctor doon sa human body, ganyan din ginagawa ng aming forensic agents. Digital forensic agents doon sa laptop. And we discovered that Ben Hurloy deleted some of the messages. Ben Hurloy deleted some of the emails. And we reconstructed these emails and we confronted Ben Hurloy about this. When we did the Dacera investigation, di ba yung Christine Dacera? When we did the Christine Dacera investigation, the occupants of room 2207, 13 of them, I confronted them. I will not take your statement unless you are assisted by a lawyer. And so they got their lawyers. There were 4 or 5 lawyers for all the 13 of them. And I asked them, "Are you willing to share to us your mobile gadgets?" First, they were looking at each other, and then they looked at their lawyers. And then I told the lawyer, "Because if you're not willing to share with us your mobile gadgets, then you can go. We will not investigate this." And then they nodded, they said yes. And we checked on their cell phones. This is now a new challenge. We have that what we call the digital forensic investigation. Because this is now the new norm. Remember yung mga sex crimes committed through text. How would you know if the person is real or not on the other end of the line? So this is a challenge because there is a rapid transformation, there's a rapid evolution of technology. And we know that investigation is covered by laws. Laws do not evolve as rapidly as technology. Laws have to be enacted by Congress. It has to be deliberated by Congress. It has to be passed by Congress. Minsan, nandyan na yung means to commit the crime, wala pa yung batas. Remember the MOA incident? Yung drugs, yung concert sa MOA? Few years back, nandito na yung form of pills, party drugs. But this was not covered by our laws. Specific kasi, special law kasi itong ating comprehensive dangerous drugs. Kung ano lang yung binabawal doon, yun lang ang papwede. Yun lang ang bawal. If it's not included in what is bawal, then you cannot prosecute a person. So ito yung challenge namin. Minsan nandyan na yung equipments, instruments used to commit a crime. Minsan the instruments used to commit a crime are so simple that they are not bawal. They are not illegal per se. Hindi, by itself, hindi ito bawal. Like, in the 90s, I was investigating the proliferation of itong videogram. Remember, may beta noon, may DVD. Madaling record ng film. Madaling mangopya. This is piracy. This is a violation of the copyright laws. But the instruments used to commit the crime, you can buy it anywhere. Recorder lang ito eh. DVR. DVR ito yung recorder, hindi naman ito bawal. Mabibili mo ito sa appliance store. At makakabili ka din ng beta tape, makakabili ka din ng VCD, blank. And then you watch a movie, you record that movie, unauthorized, unlicensed yung recording mo, that's already a violation of the crime. But the instruments used to commit that violation of the crime, they are not by itself bawal. They are not per se illegal. Unlike in some laws, there has to be documentation for it to become legal. Like, firearm itself is not illegal. Firearm itself is not illegal. Ang baril hindi illegal. But for you to possess, to be able to possess or carry that firearm, to own a firearm, you need a license. If there is no license, then that becomes illegal. Under the our system of laws, meron tayong tinatawag na kung ito ay bawal sa Kodigo Penal, sa Revised Penal Code. These are in itself illegal, unlawful. Like murder. Wala nang ibang rason doon. But those covered by special laws, they have to be very specific na ito bawal. Para maging hindi bawal, kailangan meron kang papeles, meron kang dokumento, meron kang registration. Like drugs. Drugs is by itself not legal. Not illegal, I mean. In itself, it's not illegal. I'm sorry, I have to connect my laptop kasi nag-global. Drugs in itself is not illegal. It becomes illegal kasi wala kang papeles. Remember, morphine, for example, it's being used medically by the doctors. Di ba? Heroin. But these are licensed professionals. They have license to inject or administer heroin. It becomes illegal because sinabi ng batas, illegal ito. Klaro yan, illegal ito. Pero kung meron kang papeles, covered at authorized ka, allowed ka, licensed ka, then pwede yun. There are some, of course, na illegal by itself, like shabu. Hindi mo naman pwedeng papilisan ng shabu. Now, why am I telling you this? Because, lalo na dito sa mga criminology students, later on, if you want to pursue a career at the NBI, you study law. And when you become a lawyer, you apply with the NBI. Ang problema lang sa amin, to be very frank, last year may nag-apply na 1,700. Kahapon nag-screen kami ng NBI agents dun sa 1,700. 16 lang ang pumasa. These are lawyers and certified public accountants. Napakahirap ng hindi lang yung qualification, but yung aming screening. Ako, nag-interview ako sa mga agents who want to join the NBI. We have a lawyer, engineer, is an engineer at the same time a lawyer, applied as an NBI agent. Nahirapan siya sa amin. Kaming mga deputy directors, si director, pag tinanong sila, nahirapan sila. So, for the students, you want to join the NBI, pursue a degree in law, you become a lawyer, you apply with the NBI, God forbids, I'm still here. I'm turning 60 this year. So I still have, kung hindi kami tanggalin dahil when you reach a directorial level, presidential appointee kami, kung hindi kami tanggalin, I still have 5 good years. But I can keep joining your itong Mind Talks na pinamumunuan ni Chef Melissa. We have other pieces of evidence. It's not only the physical evidence. We have what we call the circumstantial evidence. This is a harder, an evidence that is medyo mahirap i-prove. It has to be a series of circumstances. Kailangan dikit-dikit ito, chain of circumstances that would lead to a conclusion na yung tao ang gumawa ng krimen. These pieces of evidence, when put together, it should lead the judge, the court, to believe na siya nga. And then we have other pieces of evidence, like a trace evidence. Trace evidence, we have, halimbawa, excuse me for saying this, but anyone who is a minor here? No. Wala nang minor dito, no? Walang minor dito?
Wala na.
Well, okay. Halimbawa, pubic hair. It's a trace evidence. If you see me doing the crimes and investigation dun sa the Sarah case, I was looking under the bed. I was looking under the chairs. We were using vacuum to try to get practically everything on the floor. This is hotel room. So meron kaming nakukuhang hair strands. Meron kang makitang seminal stain. We were using perlite. We had to turn off the light of the room and then we used perlite. Makikita mo kung merong liquid, body fluids. May chemists kami, may doctors kami, may photographer kami, may fingerprint expert. I was on top of everything. When we went to General Santos to do an autopsy on the human remains of Christine Dacera, we practically harvested everything. Kumuha kami lahat ng biological sample ng kanyang katawan. We were able to extract urine. We were able to extract urine. We had it tested for alcohol. We had it tested for illegal drugs. We were able, ang problema lang kasi dito, we were not able to extract blood because naimbalsa mo na ito. Practically, yung kanyang human body tissues were already, I would say, partly destroyed by formalin. So ito yung sinasabi kong immediately you have to respond to the scene of the crime. But you know that in the early morning of January 1, she was already brought to Makati Medical. And thereon, she was administered yung procedures. So, ang hirap. You have other pieces of evidence. Kung makakuha ka ng halimbawa, pollen, yung if the shooter was outside in the field, in the case of the assassination of the mayor of a mayor in Laguna while attending a flag ceremony, remember that the shooter was about 200-300 meters from the target, but the shooter was in a grassy portion of the area. Kung nahuli sana doon yung shooter, dapat sinubject agad yung kanyang suot for forensic examination, compare it with the environment. Soil, kung kailangan i-compare yung kanyang footwear dun sa lupa na nandun kung saan siya, yung kinatatayuan niya, it would have helped. But again, the challenge always is to be there at the right time. Kasi kung hindi ka naman tawagin at hindi ka nagresponde, and in most crime scenes, we are not the first responder because we are not everywhere. Napakakunti lang ng NBI. In a population of what? 110? A rapidly increasing population of 110 million, there are only 530 NBI agents. 530. You have police of around 210,000. You have a military of about 190,000 strong. 530 or 35 NBI agents. Kung matuloy itong training ng aming 16 agents, hopefully walang malaglag sa kanila. So, konti lang nadadagdag sa amin. And every year, we can train only one. That's what the budget allows us. Ang hirap kasi magsabi na, accountant ka, abogado ka, you join the NBI. Ang hirap. We go to law firms, we go to law schools, we go to corporate offices. But, sino namang makikipaghabulan when you can wear coat and tie sa corporate world? When you can go to a court hearing na nakabarong ka o naka-coat. Whereupon dito sa NBI, nakikipaghabulan ka, ang hirap. This is labor of love. Kung gusto mo talaga ito, okay. Kung hindi, this may not be for you. Most of our agents, nag-judge sila, court of law, o kaya nagiging fiscal. Others, they go abroad. Others, when they retire, they're offered corporate jobs. Executive Vice President ng corporations on security. These are the NBI agents. These are our this is our work. When I joined the NBI, I was 29 years old, newly married. My wife said, "Wag yan, kasi hahawak ka ng baril." When I was already at the NBI, ang umahawak ng baril, yung wife ko na. Palagi na akong tinatanong, saan ka galing? Bakit gabi ka na? Bakit hindi ka umuwi? So, reversal of roles. So, natatawa si Chef. Ang umahawak ng baril, wife ko na, sinisita na ako. Ako na inimbestigahan. We have the forensic chemistry division. In the case of the PDEA-PNP, we have to do chemical analysis on the firearms. We did a very good crimes and reconstruction on where was the shooter, who shot who killed who. Pag present namin ito sa public, you would know na ito nakabaril, ito nakatama. Despite the complexity, if you look at the crimes and despite the complexity, there were shots fired, parehong uniformado, parehong legit. We have to resolve that. The President said, NBI kayo na, so we have to do our job. In the case of the killing of Mayor Aquino of Calbayog City, the van which we examined, the van that Mayor Aquino was riding on, the van that he used, I think it had more than 200 bullet holes. Yung tama ng van, more than 200. You can just imagine, how will you live in a situation inside the van where it had more than 200 bullet holes? In Sulu bombing, for example, yung truck ng military, halos hindi mo na makilala. The terrorists used talagang high-powered explosives. It's very difficult sometimes because in the case of the shooting incident also in Sulu, it was between the army and the police. So the president said, we flew to Sulu, we met with the president in Zamboanga. The president said, in front of the military officials, the high officials of the military and the police gathered in Zamboanga, and in front of the top officials of the NBI, I think there were 4 or 5 of us there, the president said, wag na kayo mag-away. Ito, nasa harap nyo, nasa gitna nyo. We were in the middle of the top officials of the military and the police. The president said, kilala ko itong mga to. Mga agents pa lang ito ng NBI, ito na nag-iimbestiga doon ng mga krimen sa Davao. Ilala ko itong mga ito, kung anong sabihin nila, maniwala kayo. Huwag na kayong mag-away. Sometimes we have to be the equalizer. Sometimes we have to know na we have to de-escalate the tension. Kasi kung hindi kami papasok, mag-aaway yan. In the case of the PNP, for example, kung hindi pumasok ang NBI, baka nag-ubusan na yan. We know that ang aming gagawin, nakatuon lahat. The lower house of Congress, the upper house of Congress, which is the Senate, the lower house, which is the House, they have to stop their investigations. The Board of Inquiry created by both the PDEA and the PNP, they had to stop their investigations and give way to the investigations being conducted by the NBI. But with the challenge of the pandemic, it's not easy. Much as we would like to wrap up the investigation so quickly, hindi ganong kabilis. We have to coordinate with other offices. We have to ask submissions of documents. When we ask for submission of documents, sometimes naka-lockdown sila. So ito yung challenge ng pandemic. But we're not at all bothered. We have to continue with our job. We have the medical legal division that takes care of the autopsies. Diba? Malalaman dito kung ni-rape, malalaman din dito kung binaril, malalaman dito kung sinaksak. These are all doctors. We have the DNA, the deoxyribonucleic acid division. DNA is for determination of itong genetics. Kung ikaw ba yan, this is more on identification. In the case of the missing Justice Pizarro of the Court of Appeals, we found the car abandoned in Tarlac. We found an abandoned cadaver nearby in the next barangay. But the fingers were cut. The other hand was cut. Precisely para hindi ma-identify. How do we now identify? After, I think, we cut the human body after about 2 weeks. And this was exposed to all elements. So naulanan, na nagkaroon ng elements beyond recognition. Hindi na namin malaman kung kanino. We could not identify. The first task of the NBI, the first thing there was to identify. Was this the human remains of the late Justice Pizarro? It was tough because wala ng kamay, wala ng fingerprints. So next that we have to do is forensic odontology, yung kanyang dental profile. We sought the dentist of Court of Appeals, where he retired, and the dentist said, "Sir, matagal na pong hindi nagpa-dental examine sa amin si Justice. Incomplete yung kanilang dental profile." We tried to figure out sino yung personal dentist ni Justice. We could not do that. So we have to resort to DNA. We got bones, we got body tissues, we processed it. We got reference samples from the 2 sons of the late Justice. Matched it, we found it was Justice Pizarro's human remains. Yung kanyang wife ay a former congresswoman, also impressed by the work of the NBI. And we charged a doctor for the murder of Justice Pizarro. We got all the CCTVs at Clark where he took off on that day. We later learned that when he was out of Clark, a doctor called him to go back to Clark. And we traced back everything. All the CCTVs, practically all the CCTVs in Pampanga, and we were able, in Angeles, and we were able to establish that Justice Pizarro picked up the doctor dun sa may Pure Gold inside Clark. And when we invited the doctor for investigation, the doctor came and we told him, you go back, we want you to come back with a lawyer. Doctor faced us for 4 more times, humarap sa amin, 4 na beses pa, with a lawyer, he admitted. But again, the usual alibi na I was only forced to do the crime. These are all the challenges. Kung wala kaming, in the case of Itogon Benguet, ang trabaho ng NBI, hindi lang naman ito lahat criminal investigation. Primarily, yes. But we also do standalone investigations like disaster victim identification. Under the law, NBI is mandated to do a disaster victim identification in the area of natural calamities. So kung man-made ito, kung gera ito, halimbawa Marawi Siege, at merong dong unidentified cadavers, it's the work of the police. But we assist the police. Pero kung natural calamity ito, kagaya ng Itogon Benguet, I was there. Yung mga miniro na biktima ng landslide, na tabunan ng lupa, beyond recognition. Kasi pagtabon sa kanila ng lupa, may soil ito na watery, may bagyo, in less than mga 36 hours, mabilis mag-decompose. Wala na yung fingerprint mo. And since miniro ito, ang hirap kasi yung ibang mining companies, hindi naman sila kinunan ng dental profile. So we resorted to DNA. And we challenge because some would not want us to do itong hihiwain yung katawan. Why? Because may mga cultural issues. It's in their culture and tradition na kung minority ito, karamihan minority ito, Itogon Benguet, bawal hiwain. Very much like our Muslim brothers and sisters, bawal hiwain yung kanilang katawan. Bawal sugatan. How do we now proceed to conduct autopsy, identify the human body, kung hindi mo hihiwain, hindi mo kukunan ng body tissues, body samples? Sometimes we are confronted by the challenges of our culture and tradition. So, pag nagseryoso kayo sa criminology, these are all part of it. Meron kaming tinatawag na yung aming identification division. Minsan, may mga missing persons. Fortunately, kung kumuha sila ng NBI clearance, we would be able to give you at least an idea kung kailan ito huling pumunta saan. When you secure your NBI clearance, there is a form there there is a space there in the form that says email address, cell phone number, mobile number. When you are confronted with that, mag-attend kayo ng conference, you go into an event like this, at merong form doon, usually it happens, may mga event, bago ka pumasok sa event place, you are asked there, contact tracing form, email address, cell phone number. Huwag ninyong lokohin yan. Be careful. Somehow, it will help. It will help trying to find you kung halimbawa nagkaroon ng earthquake, nagkaroon ng sea mishap, sakay kayo sa vessel, at pinag-fill up kayo doon ng manifesto, hindi kayo nagsabi ng totoo. Air crash investigation, sakay kayo ng aeroplano, hindi kayo nagsabi ng totoo doon sa yung immigration form. Minsan, ang hirap i-identify kung walang ibang parameters. Meron naman kaming yung primary parameters nito, kung nakuha kayong may sing-sing, may body marks, ma-identify yan ng relatives, may ID lalo na. Okay yan. Pero kung wala, at you are stripped naked, kaya when I'm totally naked, I always tell my wife, ito yung mga body marks ko. At nakita mo ako, pwede kang makasabi, ito yung husband ko. Dahil may bulitas. Di ba? Dahil may tattoo. Sorry that's why I asked, meron bang minor dito? Mahirap kasi mag-lecture yung ganitong pagod na tayo lahat. Di ba? I just came from a case conference involving the PNP case. I'll just wipe my eyes. Palaging sumasakit mata ko pag nakikita ko si Mrs. Lalo na naka-miniskirt. Anyway, alam niya ni Chef. Anyway, I don't know if I have still time, but I will just extend a little. We started a little late. So, if I may just extend a little. Meron kaming tinatawag na well, I already discussed DNA. DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. Di ba? Kung hirap kayong mag-pronounce yan at ibigay yan sa examen ng criminology, what is DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid? It's a test. It's a form of test to determine yung genetics. Kung hirap kayo, ang DNA naman, ang karamihan ng gamit ng DNA ay yung paternity, filiation. Minsan you try to deny, hindi ko yan anak. So magpapa-DNA yung nanay. Pag pina-DNA, you have to submit your sample. The mother has to submit the sample. The child has to submit the sample. Minsan, you try to deny. Kaya nga, ang DNA is for those who do not admit. Kung hirap kayong sabihin DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, sabihin nyo na lang, do not admit. DNA. For those who do not admit, you resort to DNA. If you cannot pronounce deoxyribonucleic acid, meron kaming yung disaster victim identification. I briefly discussed that. Meron kaming forensic odontology, yung pagkikilala ng tao. Yung pagkilala ng tao, hindi lang naman yung criminal. It helps. May bite marks. Rape victim. Nakakagat siya dun sa suspect. Then we can establish kung ma-recover namin yung victim, kahit patay na siya, dun sa kanyang dental profile, yung bite marks dun sa suspect, kung magmamatch dun sa kanyang dental profile. Sometimes sa kuko, meron ditong mga skin graft under the kuko. Kung nakakalmot, nakapanlaban yung victim. So tinitingnan namin yan. We would cut the nails and we would examine the nails. Kaninong skin itong nandito sa ilalim ng kuko ng victim? That's part of the forensic investigation. But lahat ito dapat trained. Yung mag-collect ng evidence, yung mag-process ng evidence, yung magdala ng evidence doon sa laboratory until such time, yung pag-preserve ng evidence until such time that you testified on the results of your examination. And it is appreciated by the court. Kasi kung hindi rin lang yan mapaprocess ng maayos, then useless lahat ng fieldwork na ginawa ng agents, ng forensic agents. Meron kaming tinatawag na dactyloscopy. Ito yung mga fingerprints. Lifting of fingerprints at the scene of the crime. Meron kaming question document. Ang question document napakalaki. Ito yung mga handwriting examinations. We hope to be able to come up with it based on printers. Itong printers, yung printers ng ating computer. If there is a poison letter, if there is a poison letter being passed around, computerized lang yan, nakalagay doon concerned citizen, nakalagay doon unknown. How would you know the origin of that? Ang sinasabi ko dito sa NBI, let's try to register practically all printers. There used to be a time when I was a new agent na wala pa itong mga computers. We were using typewriters. Ang typewriters, meron kami noon, malalaman namin yan kung Pica, Elite. May mga sariling characteristics yan. But itong mga millennials, I do not know if you still have that luxury of going over some typewriters. Alam ko malalambot na yung kamay nyo dahil hindi na kayo sanay gumamit ng typewriters. Hard keys ang typewriters eh. Itong mga computers, ano tawag dito? Slight touch lang ito. Soft touch lang ito. So, we have practically 14 of them. We have the Forensic and Scientific Research Center. This is on top of all the divisions. Ito yung pinaka-hub namin. Ito yung research center namin. In the US, for example, and other jurisdictions, you will see that they have studied all of these things from the very beginning. Magtataka kayo why are they so interested in our, for example, in our wildlife? Why are they so interested in our environment? Bakit pinapakialaman ng ibang bansa yung ating wildlife, yung ating environment? That's where they get technology from the science of things. So you look at aircraft bombers. They are patterned after the ways eagles fly. If you look at telescope, they are patterned after the eyes of the owl. If you look at submarines, they are patterned after how whales swim, how whales move in water. So from science, they try to develop technology which may be used either for good or for bad. But in comparisons, science corrects itself, technology kills itself. Remember, there was a time na siguro bata pa masyado si Chef, but there was a time na may easy call. Remember, doctors responding to the call of emergency calls of the clients? Easy call. Very limited lang doon nakalagay. Call, number, ganito. And then it progressed into cell phones. Cell phones that would take only calls. Walang text. And it progressed into cell phones with text messages. Now we have cell phones with video, cell phones that can take photos. What's next? We do not know. But yung dinaanan niya, na easy call, wala na. Technology kills itself. But science corrects itself. Depende sa research, depende sa kanilang basis. There was a time when they said, egg yolk is bad for the health. Then later on, they corrected, they said, egg yolk is good for the health. And then another findings came out that, egg yolk is good after all. This is the case with di ba, yung ating vaccines. There is a never-ending debate on which is good, which is not good. Because depending on the basis of the laboratory research and examination, it will keep reversing itself or correcting itself. In crimes, science as applied to technology plays a vital role. We do not know how to use science. we abuse the use of technology, it can lead to bigger problems in criminal solution. We have cell phone, we use technology to solve crimes, but technology is also used to commit crimes. Abuse of technology is also used to commit crimes. Is this a challenge for forensic investigation? Very much challenge, yes. Ang laking problema dito because criminals walang ginagawa yan kung hindi mag-isip paano gumawa ng kalokohan. Admittedly, yes, we are one step behind of criminals because ang sa atin is solution. Ng 50 times. Clearly, the intent is to kill you. Nasaksak ka isa, dalawang beses. Well, there may be that intention of killing you, but harming you is more of an intent than killing you. Pero kung sinaksak ka ng 50, 100 times, it's very clear now that the intent is to kill you, not only to harm you. Motive behind? The reason for doing the saksak depends. It varies. The motivation there could be revenge, baka naman economic motivation, bayad siya, professional killer, all of these things. It's so unfortunate that I cannot show you some of the video for reasons na I read in the program. It's FB Live. I have some reservations on showing this FB Live. Kung Zoom lang sana ito o kaya live audience, I would love to do showing you some video para makita nyo paano kaming mag-solve ng crimes.
Director Lavin, excuse me, we're not
Yes.
on live, on FB
Oh.
Live.
It is your FB Live.
Unfortunately,
I'm just recording it, except nagkaroon kasi ng technical difficulties. So we're
yeah.
not doing it on Facebook Live because I don't know how to do it. Ako yung naging...
Oh. Okay. I wanted to show some photos. I did not prepare really because natakot ako dito sa FB Live. Baka makapture kasi ito and then later on in defense, this may be used against us. this may be used against us. But anyway, I hope this is not the last. This may be the first. If we will have marami kami ditong gustong i-share, and I am very glad and I'm very thankful na I was given the opportunity by the good mayor and the loving wife, si Chef. And I would like to end this on a note na sa mga criminologists, we always think of why are we here? Kami, ako palagi kong ang standard kasi, why am I here? Why am I doing this? My wife at first doesn't like this. My kids are so worried. I'm already, turning 60 this year. I do not have the reflexes as quick as I had it when I was 29 when I joined the NBI. I've been here for 31 years already. Why am I here? Ang sa akin lang is, in my elementary years, I was taught what's right and wrong. Di ba? Ano yung tama sa mali? It's so easy for us na magsabi ito tama, ito mali. But when it goes beyond that, that's something else. When it's already a choice between good and evil, kung ito ay kabutihan at kasamaan, dapat mag-isip naman tayo. Sometimes it's easy to say, I'm wrong. You admit to being wrong, that may be forgivable. But if it's an evil thing, if it's already between good and evil, ibang usapan na yan. Ibig sabihin, pinag-isipan mo na yan. Between right and wrong, baka nagkaroon ka ng misjudgment. Pero between good and evil, doon sa narrow point between kabutihan at kasamaan, iba na yan. Again, I'd like to thank, I don't know if there is a time for interaction. I know I have gone beyond my time. But I'd like to thank the organizers, the university. I hope I can visit the university when things get back to normal. I hope I can do this on the live audience. I can show something. I can share with you some of our images para mas madaling maintindihan. Thank you. Thank you, Chef. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Professor Consunhi. Thank you, Professor Marticio. And thank you, Malabon, University of Malabon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, Director Lavin, for your invaluable time and knowledge you've shared tonight. I personally am amazed how you highlight the importance of forensic from science to law to legal to court to technology. And now we're going to begin answering questions sent in our chat box. Our first question coming from BP Melissa. Are there serial killers here in the Philippines? Have we ever caught one?
Yes, there are. Yes, there are. Some of them already, served their time, either in prison or with the BFF of the maker. So yung dun sa kabila, no? Yung hindi langit. Meron, I do not have the specifics, but if you go through the records of our Bureau of Corrections, yes, some of them were very successful in masquerading as legit, I would say, killings, as justified things when they are not.
Thank you, Sir Levin. For the next question coming from Professor Angeles, what is the main problem why we do not have much forensic experts in the Philippines? I only knew of Dr. Raquel Fortun ever since. That this something to do with education, training, or opportunities?
Yes, it's true. As a matter of fact, we at the NBI we struggle so hard to get dentists, chemists, doctors, especially doctors. And kung doctor man ito, they have to be trained. They have to be trained with the ways of investigation. These are not ordinary doctors because ordinary doctors, they do this. Beyond the ordinary thing a doctor does, trying to relate this to investigation, trying to relate this to law, and later on the courts, the requirements of the courts, ang hirap. Most doctors, they do not want to testify in court. Most doctors, they do not want, some doctors, they do not want to be accounted for their acts. Like, hihiwain mo pa yung patay para lang malaman paano tumakbo yung bala sa loob ng katawan. That's too much. Ang hirap mag-train ng forensic agents. We have to send them to FBI. I'm a graduate of the FBI. We have to send them to other schools abroad. We have to send them to Lyon, France, the Interpol. We have to send them to schools in Singapore. Ang hirap mag-train. Yung halimbawa, chemists. Kung chemist ka, corporate world, maybe in an industrial setting, you are paid this much. Dito, hindi naman ganon. And then you are exposed to the hazards. You go with the agents on an illegal drugs operation, naaamoy mo yung fumes. Exposed ka sa shabu, exposed ka sa explosives. It's very difficult. When you are a dentist, you're in the US, for example, dentists, they make good money. Dito titingnan mo yung dental profile nung patay. Most dentists, mas gusto nila, tinitingnan nila yung buhay. So, qualification-wise, napakataas ng qualification. You have to be a registered professional in your field. And then the training that goes with the specialization to qualify you as a forensic expert is very hard to come by. Ang hirap dito, kulang ng training dito. It's very hard to do. When you go to court testify on your findings, the judge will ask you, are you a forensic expert? Before your testimony may be considered as an expert witness, as the testimony of an expert witness, you have to qualify yourself. Yes. Have you taken up masteral course in your field of specialization? Have you written a book? How many have you examined? How many have you examined in terms of autopsy maybe? What are the results of the examination? You have to qualify yourself before the court will believe you. Remember, whatever you say as an expert witness, there is a very high probability that the court will believe you. Kasi, ang judge is not a doctor. The judge is not a chemist. Sino pa ang pwedeng mag-contest nung sinabi ng forensic expert? Well, it can be challenged by the defense. Ang hirap mag-testify ng forensic expert. That is why others ayaw. Aside, of course, I'm not blaming the bureaucracy. Na we are limited in terms of compensation, yung resources. We are government functionaries. So when you can do so much more outside. So ito yung challenge sa amin, but this is sinasabi ko kanina, ito yung labor of love. Kung gusto mo ito, may mga doktor kasi na gusto nila kasama sila ng agent, kasama silang nag-field work, may baril din sila. Pag binaril kami, may doctor kami when we did an autopsy in Samar many years back when I was a young agent in the early 90s. Nahulog siya sa kabayo, nabalian siya ng buto, doktor ito, may hinukay kami in PA infested area, gusto nila yon. This is a labor of love. Yung iba namang agents, yung iba kasi, halimbawa, lawyer ka, why would, di ba? Bakit ka makikipaghabulan? Doon sa area ng, tawag natin doon yung less fortunate. Pwede ka naman dito sa corporate world. Certified public accountant ka, ang laki ng kikitain mo dun sa corporate world. Tapos nandito ka, nagkakalkal ng mga dokumento on graft cases. So yan, ang not only the qualification, but the training that goes after you are qualified, you have been qualified, ang hirap. And yung requirements, the demands of your work, you will be testifying in a case na illegal drugs. When you conducted the raid, okay lang, kasama mo agents. But when the court calls you to testify on your examination, ito illegal drugs, chemist ka, ikaw lang ang sinumpina ng court. You go there by yourself. You have threats to your life, you have threats to your security. There was a time I almost wanted to get out. Surveillance yung bahay ko, I had to close the small pastry shop of my wife. I was put on a surveillance for 8 months after I filed a case, yung Atimunan Massacre. Surveillance yung bahay ko. Well, si chef knows, meron kaming maliit na shop. I had to close it. And my kids were so worried. After I investigated a case involving the killing of a judge in Negros Occidental, napakonvict ko mga members ng kaliwa, I was surveilled again. So, ang hirap dito dahil ginagampanan mo na yung trabaho mo, tinitreaten ka pa, di ba? When you pursue your case in court, you go there to testify. I filed a case against some very prominent families in Agusan many years back, murder. When I testified, I was all by myself. And the judge asked me to surrender my firearms while I was taking on the witness stand. So I don't know. It's in, I think, San Francisco, Agusan. I don't know if I will be shot while I'm seated at the witness stand. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lavin. For the last 2 questions, because we do not have luxury of time, this is for our criminology student. Does the NBA is already capable in dealing cybercrime issues?
Very good point. Yes. Yung aming director, si Director Eric Distor, very aggressive siya, no? During the pandemic, there was a rise of cybercrime. Remember, halos lahat naging keyboard experts because you do not go out. Boredom shifted into using your gadgets at home. Ang dami ditong nagkaroon ng scam, ang daming nagkaroon ng cyber sex issues. We are dealing with that, but we have very limited agents. Remember, ang aming agents dito sa digital forensic for examining a gadget, no? You cannot just examine a gadget. You have to apply for a cyber warrant. The moment you examine a gadget at meron kang nasagasaan dyan na sex video at hindi iyan ang iniimbestigahan mo and you try to download it, you will be liable for it. Halimbawa, ang pina-examine dito is extortion o kaya scam. At the gadget was submitted for examination to the NBI. We have to be very specific. Ano ba yung krimen na ginawa sa iyo? Kasi kung meron kang nasagasaan doon na kinalkal mo lahat at meron kang nakita na sex video na walang kinalaman doon sa krimen, yung iba nating kabataan mahilig sila mag-posing ng alam mo na nude. Pag pinakaalaman mo yon, you are criminally liable. So ang aming agents dito mga certified ethical hackers. They can hack, but they are certified ethical hackers. The hackers outside, they are called unethical hackers. They have no license to hack. We do have capability, but again, with the rise of cybercrime, kinakapos yung agents. Kasi ang dami ngayon keyboard warriors eh. Ang taas ng incidents ng even si Senadora Ontiveros, di ba? Sabi niya ang taas ng incidents ng cybercrime with the pandemic. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. And for the last question, may I call on one of the criminology professors, Professor Princess T. Still there?
Hi po. Good evening po sa lahat. Good evening, sir. Ang question ko lang po is all about the equipments na meron po tayo ngayon sa NBI. Nakakasabay na po ba tayo sa mga other countries in terms of equipments na meron po tayo in forensic investigation? Thank you po.
Thank you. Again, very good point. Ang challenge namin is we are limited in resources by the budget. Okay? While we are forward thinking, while our director is very visionary, yung ibang countries kasi, they are the originator of these equipments. Di ba? In terms of study, kumbaga, sila yung author ng mga libro. Nakikibasa lang tayo. So, siyempre, lamang sila. When these equipments are put in use in other countries, that's the only time we will come to know na available na pala ito. In terms of sabay, we try to catch up. But again, Congress will always ask us. That's why we are thankful that we have a future congressman in the person of Congressman Antolin and hopefully Congresswoman
Hindi.
Lisa, no? Wala pa naman itong wala pa itong electioneering. Sabi nga ng COMELEC, pag hindi yan election time, di yan electioneering.
Huwag kayo maniwala.
We are fortunate kasi may mga kaibigan din kami sa Congress. We always ask congressmen. And I always attend congressional hearings. Ako minsan pinapadala with the other deputy directors and with the directors, senior officials of the NBI. Pag nagbilib sa amin yung Senate, pag nagbilib sa amin yung House, sasabihin, NBI, anong gusto nyong bilhin? And the GCTE investigations, yung Good Conduct Time Allowance investigations, remember that? Nagsisinungaling doon yung Bucor officials. They said, no, I did not text him. I did not text him regarding this. I think it was Senator Gordon who said, can you submit your cell phone for examination with the NBI? The lady officer readily said yes, thinking that she was already able to successfully delete the messages. When we investigated that, when we examined the cell phone, it came out. We were able to reconstruct all the messages. So, in terms of digital, kulang pa kami. It used to be, we would, again, FBI graduate ako, madali ako makasabi sa FBI, can you do us a favor? Yung celebrate extraction device ng messages. But may prioritization sila. Hindi naman lahat ng kaso pwede mong ipa-extract yung messages sa FBI. Kung terrorism ito, yes. Kung corruption ito, maybe. Corruption involving the money loaned out by foreign bodies to the Philippines, yes. Kung sex crimes ito involving their citizens, yes. But when you're talking of some crimes na meron lang national at walang masyadong international issues, in terms of prioritization, hindi yan nila priority. So if we tap them to help us, because we do not have the available technology, last yun sa priority nila, prioritization classification nila. We are trying to catch up. What is good with our local setting is that ang Filipinos, we are very good at manual labor. While we do not have the luxury of top of the line technology, top of the line equipments on our side, very much like other professionals. Magagaling, talagang inborn ito, innate ito sa Pilipino. Magagaling talaga tayo. Kahit na sabihin mong mano-mano, if I can only show you or share with you the video how we did the PDEA PNP, the Calbayog City shooting of the mayor, wala kami nung tinatawag na 3D laser something. We tried to analyze the distance of the shooter in the PDEA PNP case. The distance of the shooter dun sa kanyang target, sa victim. We tried to analyze who shot who killed who. And the confusion of things, di ba maano ito, ang dami nila eh. Takbo-takbo yung mga tao. I will present it when we already present it to the public. I will present it the way we examined. Meron kaming human, vehicle, and movement analysis. Tumakbo dito, binaril ito, dapat na-analyze namin yun. Yung trajectory, yung distance, dapat na-analyze namin yun. There is a way of doing this with the aid of technology. But it's very expensive. We can hardly afford. But we never complained. We said, we will do it. That is why it's taking us a little time. Remember, this happened, I think, February 24. It's more than 2 months already. Hopefully, next month, we will come up with a very good investigation report despite the challenge of technology. Yes, we're trying to catch up. We are not there yet na level talaga sa first world country because we only try to copy their technology. We only try to borrow their technology. We would adapt to their technology. But these are very expensive technology. And we all know, as I said, technology kills itself. After a few months, after a year maybe, or 2 years, that technology is overtaken by another technology. Wala na yun. So you buy it now. There was a time when the NBI purchased yung interceptor ng text message, analog. Congress gave us the funds. We went to Congress, we said, we need this for the NBI. Para malaman namin sino nag-text kanino. You know how fund is given to the NBI. It has to be given by Congress. It has to be authorized by Congress. By the time we were authorized by Congress, by the time we have the funds, wala na yung analog technology, digital na. And you cannot now say, itong binigay na funds, gamitin namin dito sa digital. Because you were not authorized by Congress to do a digital thing. Ang authority yung binigay sa iyo ay analog. So this is our biggest challenge. As much as we would like to modernize, it's not easy to modernize. It has to pass through the scrutiny of Congress. Congress gives us the fund. By the time funds are there, it's no longer the technology. It's no longer the price. Sometimes technology is already obsolete by that time. Sayang. But anyway, alam naman namin to. We never complain. Given a task, we would perform the task and to the best of our ability. Ang leadership kasi ng NBI is very solid. You may not have seen us quarrel. You have seen very little abuses by our agents. Only because 530 lang kami, but because our agents are well-trained. We have sent some of our abusive agents to jail. Director mismo namin, pinakulong. Meron lang ditong allegation na involved ka sa drugs. Imbestigahan ka kaagad. So that's how we're coping with technology. We hope that we would be at par with our counterparts, foreign counterparts. Again, technology is just technology. Yes, we have some of them. In the case of the MOA incident, yung illegal drugs doon, di ba? Yung illegal drugs na nilagay sa bottled water, nandito na yung drugs. When you talk of mga party drugs, mostly these are from Europe. Kasi yung galing dito sa, itong mga heroin cocaine, galing ito sa South America. Itong mga synthetic drugs, galing ito mostly sa China, dito lang yan. Ito yung mga shabu. Okay? Pero pag yung sinasabing party drugs, yung mga ecstasy, mostly galing yan sa Europe. Nandito na yung party drugs na ginamit dun sa MOA, we do not have yet the technology to separate. Kasi may tinatawag dito spectrometer. May gas, may liquid spectrometer. It separates the chemicals. Wala pa kaming spectrometer. Yung aming spectrometer luma. It's an old spectrometer. It doesn't have that. But the crime was already here. The drugs was already here. At that time, wala kami. But we were able somehow to establish. Through forensic, tinignan namin yung tama. Nag-collapse lahat ng organs ng mga victims doon. Sunog yung puso. For drinking liquid, young. Hindi naman ito yung mga alcoholic. We sent some pieces of the human body tissues to FBI. It was examined. They said, ito yung mga nakuha namin sa loob. So, this is a challenge. We know that we are getting there. It's all on the dedication and the competence of our agents. We hope that we will be supported with the tools, the instruments used to conduct investigation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you po.
Thank you so much, Director Lavin. And for the awarding of the e-certificate, may I call on the Vice President for Admin and Finance, Dr. Michael Domingo.
Good evening to each and everyone. The City of Malabon University proudly presents this Certificate of Appreciation to Director Ferdinand Lavin in recognition of his invaluable contribution as guest speaker during the Mind Talks webinar with the team Forensic Investigation, held via Zoom and FB Live, given this 20th day of May 2021, signed Honorable Antolin A. Ureta III, the University President. Again, congratulations, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. I will treasure this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director Lavin.
Thank you. Thank you once again, Director Lavin. And to give us her closing remarks, may I call on the Vice President for Institutional Development and External Affairs, Engineer Sheila Ibay Villanueva.
Thank you, Professor Julie. Good evening to our university officials, of course, headed by our University President, Mayor Lenlen Ureta, our VP for ACAD, Professor Melissa Ureta, and our VP for Admin, Dr. Michael Domingo, the rest of our faculty, our fellow employees, students and guests. Isang mapagpalang gabi po sa ating lahat. As we end this webinar, I hope you heard some takeaways that will help our participants, not only from College of Criminology, but practically for all members of City of Malabon community. We heard some terrific ideas from the forensic science, from no less than the expert in this field. On behalf of the CMU management, we want to thank our speaker at the very able Deputy Speaker of NBI, Director Ferdinand Lavin, who have generously provided We'd like to thank, of course, the organizers of this event, led by Dean Francis Martesio from College of Criminology, for conducting this event for this relevant topic, not only in the academy but in our society. We wish everyone well. Thank you for your presence and have a good night, and God bless us all.
Thank you, Director Levine.
Thank you, Mayor. Kong.
Hindi, wala. Tapos na. Si Chef nag-ayos lang ng hapunan. Kaya nawawa.
Yeah. Alam ko, Kong, alaga ka ni Chef.
Thank you, Director. Salamat po.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
ma'am.
Director Lavin.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being